You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the Batman Podcast Network. That has a whole list of other Bat-related shows that all like to talk about other nerdy subjects that all of us, including Peter Vera, love to frolic about in our free time. Pete is the biggest frolicker of them all. Don't let him tell you any different. The Batman Book Club is also on Patreon. If you like what's going on with the show and you want to help support the show and keep those generators running in the Wade Manor study, just go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc and join very generous people, past, present, future, that are helping support the show. And again, another shout out to the latest patron, Mark Magaha. Much appreciated, sir, that you are helping support this show. Everything goes back into it, helps it keep up and running. Much appreciated. Now, thank you, though, for listening to episode 185, Penguin Triumphant. This is not the Penguin Book Club. It's still the Batman Book Club. We got a little wah, 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 coming in here. If you feel a cold chill, it's because we're in the Iceberg Lounge for this episode. And I'm not alone. Joining me is a very familiar voice you've heard on this show many times. His work is blasted all over t-shirts, onesies, beanies, everywhere of the Batman Book Club logo. He's the artist formerly known as J. Rocca. It's one Sir Justin Kowalski. Oh, Kowalski.
Oh, yeah. Man, I was frolicking with Pete Vera last night, man.
Awesome.
Frolicking all through Batman 89. It was great.
As much as he wants to deny it, we have all seen, especially City of New York, have seen Pete frolic. The video screen at Yankee Stadium is there. He frolics. He can't deny it. He keeps trying to. And he's like, oh, I'm going to talk to Justin. I don't frolic. I don't know how Justin is going to come to your defense. He's seen the video too.
I've seen it. I've seen it. But I hear him. But I think just he appreciates a more manly, verb.
Yeah. What's he got against frolic? You look up the definition of frolic, and it is what all of us are doing all the time because we're happy people. But anyways, happy to have you back. Always enjoy having you on here talking.
Yeah. I'm bummed this wasn't episode 182, so I could put some funny Blink 182 references.
Did Garrett and I get a little carried away with that?
I thought it was funny, and I was like, "Oh, you guys should have said this." I was just like thinking through, like,
I should have asked, "Was that over the top?" I can never tell.
I just thought, like, oh, I would have called you a dumpweed or something.
Yeah,
just like some random, like, be like, man, overboard.
I had no idea. Bravo. Yeah, I had no idea, and he came out the gate with that, and I was like, wow, this lined up pretty well, Garrett. Yeah. Pretty well. So then all of a sudden in my head is just trying to think of all these all the titles, and of course when you're on under pressure, you blank. Not blink, you blank.
You blink.
But yeah, it was a good time. Hey, if you want to throw some references in here, sure, why not?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if they even fit. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
No stress.
All right.
We'll just
no stress.
We'll do it one more time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
miss you. Mine didn't make any sense. Okay, let's hop in now, Justin.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book that you're here for today. Let's talk a little Penguin Triumphant. Now, this beast right here, written by John Ostrander.
Yes.
With art from Joe Staton, I believe is how it's pronounced. Staton.
I've always called it Staton.
Staton.
Yeah, but I could be wrong.
BBC rules. Joe S. Good old Joe S. With colors by Laverna Kindzierski. I apologize. Might have to go with Laverne Oh man, LK, good old LK.
Yeah.
The book was released in 1992, obviously in a physical form, almost like a little prestige format. It's available now digitally. It is on DC Universe Infinite. The book is collected actually in the trade paperback collection Batman Arkham Penguin.
Oh,
And that trade paperback collection is available on my favorite app of all time, Hoopla.
Hoopla. What else is in that collection?
Oh, our man Norm Breyfogle.
Nice.
He's in there. Batman. Hey, hold on. Let's see here. Let me find it.
Oh, is it the Penguin Affair?
No, it's Snow and Ice, parts 1 and 2. Ode
Okay.
to a Penguin. So Detective Comics 610, Detective
Oh,
Comics
wow.
611, in which maybe off the top of their head, people won't know that one, but it's the Batman's, I mean, great Breyfogle cover, Batman standing there in the graveyard, and he's like, his head's a little in silhouette, but he's looking at like a tombstone that's got the penguin. And then that's part 1, and part 2 is like the up close of Penguin and his monocle, and he's got his little cigarette holder sticking out of his
Yeah.
mouth. Those two covers, like I'm sure anybody listening would know those covers.
Yeah.
And then there's, let's see,
That's right around Penguin Affair time, though. That's why I was like,
yeah. The Penguin Returns, parts 1 and 2. Writer Doug Mensch, penciler Kelly Jones, our boy Kelly Jones. And then Night of the Penguin, Detective Comics 824, Paul Dini, Don Kramer on pencils. And then Joker's Asylum, Penguin #1, He Who Laughs Last. Which that one written by Jason Aaron, art by Jason Pearson. That one's a little fuzzy to me. But then obviously I think the debut of Penguin is in that one as well. So I mean, it's a pretty good collection. I think those Arkham
Nice.
collections are pretty good for each
That's
villain.
cool.
I never picked them up, and I think they're a little harder to find now.
Yeah.
A little more expensive, but they're all available digitally and on Hoopla. So,
Nice.
Justin Kowalski,
Yeah.
which version of this did you read for this episode?
I read my original copy, bro. Press here. I'm showing it to him right here. Shiny lettering on it.
Shiny.
I bought this the day I saw Batman Returns.
Hey.
I left the theater and at the where I saw the movie back then.
Mhm.
Remember, I've got some years on you, bro. And so I watched this movie. Immediately went to the comic book store at the time, Comic Castle, and I bought this, and I bought the Catwoman Defiant.
Yeah.
Just same like version, like a Prestige, and the Batman Returns adaptation.
Nice.
So yeah,
which
so I bought those
me
three.
and one Sir Ryan Haas covered.
That's true.
Oh man, 2022. I was gonna say
Hey.
last year, but now we're 2024.
Yeah. So
we did in June, so look that one up. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah. So I dropped a good, $15, probably 16 on those 3 books at a young
Prestige
age.
Comics.
Wiped me out,
$15.
but yeah, I bought it, and
Worth
yeah,
it.
I love. Yeah, it was just, I was all hyped up, man. Let's go. It's funny, like how you sometimes you get motivated just to buy. Oh, I'm gonna jump in on these cash-ins, right?
Yeah.
And I always liked the story. It was fun for me, man. And it was fun to revisit. I don't think I've read it in a long time, and so
yeah, we'll get there. So I actually wanted to say really quick while you said Catwoman Defiant. So one, DC's marketing scheme totally worked.
Yeah.
Because they released Penguin Triumphant and Catwoman Defiant and the adaptation all at the same time, to coincide with the Batman Returns release. So look at that right here. It worked. They should continue to do stuff like that. The covers, Brian Stelfreeze.
Yeah.
So I was too young for Returns, but when Batman Forever came out, they did the same thing with a Riddler story and a Two-Face story. And the Riddler story, I adore that Riddler story. I love it. Stelfreeze also did those covers.
Yeah.
And I got those for Christmas that year. I always talk about how Christmas 1995 was my Batman Christmas, and it will never be matched. And then again in Batman and Robin, there was Batgirl, Bane, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze books that all came out at that time, and Stelfreeze did all of those covers. So I just remember always being wowed by the covers. I love these covers.
And then he moved on to Shadow of the Bat.
And then he did Shadow of the Bat. Yeah.
Probably right after. It was actually right after the Penguin Triumphant stuff.
This
So,
Stelfreeze, he's
incredible. He's a great artist.
Yeah. So little notes on that. So the version that I read though, because I even told you because it was a little while ago that you'd
Yeah.
said that this was what you wanted, and I
Yeah.
went and looking through my archives and I couldn't find my physical copy. And I
Mm,
was really bummed about this, and I was starting to sweat it of like, uh-oh, I can't find this. I know I have it somewhere. It's just in one of, it's stashed away somewhere. And then
yeah.
I found it on Hoopla, who which, I think even texted you like all
Yeah.
hail Hoopla.
Yep.
So that's what I did. Checked out that Batman Arkham trade on Hoopla, and I went digital with it. So we kind of flip-flopped
Nice.
a little bit, which I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. You go to older books and you've got your physicals still
Yeah.
that you like to bust out.
Yeah.
Um,
I got most of them like on a shelf still too.
yeah,
Like if it's prestige, it's
bat
on a
shelf.
shelf. Yeah, the bat shelf, and so easier than digging through the bins.
You may have already answered this, but I have to ask it.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you first read this?
Yeah. That day.
That day
Someday in June,
of
June
92.
of 92, a
Uh-huh.
young buck. I read this on the floor of my bedroom. I remember reading just through it, boom, 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 read all of them, and just being there was some stuff in there. I just remember like, oh gosh, like laughing because of like the comical side of it, but like also
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a little titillating, some of it, It's
Oh, titillating.
hey, yeah,
Heyo.
and hello.
One part in particular.
Yeah. And so I just thought like, oh, this is so risque,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I read it, man.
What a
I would
day.
read anything Batman back then, though.
You went and saw Returns,
Yeah,
immediately went to the comic shop, got 3 Batman comics, and then went home
yeah,
and read all 3. Like, wow,
yeah,
what a day.
yeah. I got a Subway sandwich first. My
Awesome.
older sister went with me, and then yeah, got a Subway, stood in line for the movie.
It was probably better, like in the end, better food. But if you'd have gone to McDonald's before Returns,
Yeah,
you
no
know,
McDonald's though. There was no McDonald's in that
but
shopping center,
I get you.
so
All right.
yeah,
Fair
I had to go
enough.
for Subway. Yeah, eat fresh.
The real humdinger of a question here. Um, why Penguin Triumphant?
Um, man, Ryan, I don't even know. I don't remember. I
Don't
don't know
know.
why I picked it when we were talking. I think when we were chatting about a book to read, I think I
Mhm.
was going through I was just rearranging my kind of my hangout spot in my man cave. And maybe I just wanted to spurn Pete a little bit. Like, why hasn't Pete picked this book? Right?
Yeah.
The Penguin fan, right? You know?
Mhm.
So I don't remember why I picked this book, but I just when I was going through it, I was like, dude, I had a fun time reading this. And I think it's one of those little gems that if you may have passed over it,
Yeah.
through, oh, why would I read this Penguin? It's a fun story. I
Mhm.
actually, I kind of wanted to say this maybe at the end, but I can say it now. I think this is a marker point for Penguin stories. Is this kind of I think it's a good segue of like the goofy to
Mhm.
like maybe platforming him into business.
Mhm.
That makes sense. And so we can get
It
into
does.
that as we talk about the story. But
No,
yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I've like I don't ever want to make a claim unless it is so regularly reading comic books like to the comic shop almost every week began for me in 2006. So since
Wow.
then I have a better um gauge on the, Batman comics at this time from then until
Yeah.
now because I've been so, um following along with every aspect. Prior to that, especially early 90s, I can't make a claim of like, well, this is like a standout book because it took Penguin from being the trick umbrellas only,
Hmm.
ha ha ha, gag stuff to more the evolution into what he is now. I don't know
Yeah.
other comics at the time. Granted, the Breyfogle, Alan Grant Penguin stories that we just mentioned, those I
Yeah.
don't, those are taken a little bit more serious, but I'm a little fuzzy on those right now. Love them because
Yeah.
Breyfogle, the goat.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm kind of like with you of like I was actually thinking that while reading it this time too of like there are some characteristics of the penguin in the story that like maybe they grabbed those because Denny O'Neil was an editor at the time, so maybe
Hmm.
that was like they were like this is the next evolution of Penguin, and then we
Yeah.
know the Penguin as he you know late 90s, and then he's kind of how he's become now, with the
Hmm.
Iceberg Lounge and all of that, and I think there's a lot of points here in the story that you can see now, and you could probably trace back to maybe this one, like the
Hmm.
gradual turning of the character into who we know now. Who I
Yeah.
think I applaud, and I'm really glad because Penguin wasn't ever really a favorite of mine. I knew his gimmicks and stuff, A lot of people credit that like he never got the story, like his Killing Joke, and then that Pain and Prejudice. A lot of people talk about of
Yeah,
like
that's a
that.
great one.
That's a great standout Penguin story. And then this last
Yeah.
one that I always forget the title. Just talked about it with Paul Herman,
Mhm.
um, recently, but that they did the One Bad Day. That
Yeah.
one put that one up there with it.
Yeah.
This one I'd put like half a notch behind those two, but like
Yeah.
this one is up there for me. I think
Yeah.
this is a great story.
Yeah, and then this one definitely it feels like it's a little more fun. It's a funner story.
Hmm.
Like it's not as like Pain and Prejudice. I mean, that one's that's an
That's some dark
HBO
stuff.
Max show,
Exactly.
right? Like whereas this one, it's just it's a little more just I would say even though it came out in 92, it felt like a 1980s comic book.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
John Ostrander. Like I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he wrote one of the best runs of Suicide Squad. He's done a lot of different books, like he's done some Hawkman stuff and whatever. But I think he had a good voice for that silly side of Penguin, but it was
Mhm.
able to like there was a little bit of pathos to it. Like you could fit some of I mean, Penguin's always been his story's been he was bullied as a kid,
Yep.
which causes him to to behave in the way he is. But yeah, I reading it was actually kind of fun going back as a grown person reading it
Mhm.
because you're like, oh, okay, you appreciate it in a different way, you know.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, man, Penguin Triumphant.
So you just said about it being a little bit more fun. So I even wrote down on my notes that in reading in this and coming across Bruce and Batman, I heard Conroy's voice,
Uh-huh.
but when Penguin's on, I heard Tom Kenny's voice. And Tom
Oh,
Kenny did Penguin from the 2004 The Batman cartoon.
gotcha.
Lighter fare, you
Yeah,
know. Um very always
yeah,
Jeeves,
yeah,
sort of deal, as opposed to, and I'm blanking on the name for the animated series, which was a little bit more
yeah,
serious, and not as wacky, sort of.
yeah.
And so I felt that was to me, I got about halfway through it and I jotted that down because I'm like, that's kind of for like just for myself, reflecting on myself. That's an interesting um note that like popped in my head, but that's just like the vibe that I got from it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think like if you're talking like voices, I think Penguin's always just been Burgess Meredith in my head.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I do appreciate kind of the aristocratic like take the animated series had because
Yeah.
that's kind of where I feel like his voice lands now. Like where I'm trying to look up. Oh yeah, Paul Williams is the guy
There
who
we go.
did the
Thank
voice
you.
from. Yeah. So he that I actually like that voice, but like I don't know
Hmm.
when as soon as there's a wah wah wah, all I hear is like I just hear that just that 66 voice coming through, man. Burgess Meredith just and it's not a bad voice. Like when you watch those shows, like the Penguin was actually a
It
pretty
fits.
like I loved the Penguin on the 66 show, right? And so I think you know as a comic book character, it can get kind of silly,
Hmm.
But like even in this book, Batman gives him props. Says he's more brilliant than him, and Robin's
Yeah.
just like, "What are you talking about, man?"
Say what?
Yeah, it's so. But I think I've always as the Penguin's character has evolved, I do like him as more of a supporting cast member. Like I think he should just always be part of Batman's world instead of him being the main villain. But then sometimes like, oh, he is the main villain of this. Okay, but you have to have a good story to
He's
make
the
him the
brains of
lead.
the organization.
Yeah, yeah. So, anywho, man, we can.
So this I don't know that I don't think I answered when I first read this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
When did you first
when did
read
I
this,
first
Ryan?
read this?
When did Ryan Lauer engage in this?
Uh COVID year, I bought my physical copy from a comic
Okay,
shop. It was $5.
that's how
Um
much I paid.
um and I feel like I read this and Catwoman Defiant. I have Riddler and Two-Face have since 95, so I've read those to death. And I don't know if I've read the Batman and Robin ones from 97, but if I
I
don't
haven't either.
remember reading it and I can't tell you when, then it feels like, okay, then I probably didn't read them then. So I have to pinpoint back to 2020, and I didn't remember a thing about this book. And actually reading it now, I think I read the book twice when I first got it, and then put it away, and I haven't read it
Yeah.
since. So I totally forgot anything. You just said, "Hey, I'll
No.
give you $100. Tell me anything that happens in this comic." I would not have been able to name anything.
Yeah.
But reading it this time, that only worked better because those first 7 pages were
Oh,
a little bit WTF? No, 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 no. This isn't the story.
yeah.
But I don't remember, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it gets to that point where you have that bubble, that dialogue bubble coming in from off panel,
Yeah.
that's just like, Cobblepot or Ozzy or whatever it says to it. And it's like, oh, okay. And then he's fantasizing there in Arkham
Yeah.
about this great episode of this, the Cobblepot drama TV series in Scotland or something,
Yeah.
like that, which was kind of funny.
Yeah. I
But
love it. I love his fantasy of himself.
I mean, when he's a strapping, tall, skinny man who's just
Yeah.
the women are just after him, and he's like, he's sleek and he sticks her with a needle at the end to get her necklace, and
Yeah.
the suave penguin. It's like that, though, to credit like what we were just talking about, is like that's his desire,
Yes.
to be.
Mhm.
He wants to be that smooth, in which I think almost at this point now, the character, all he's missing, I guess, is the looks.
Yeah.
Because if he had that, he will have accomplished everything that he's want, because he sits in a position of power. He knows what's going on. He has
Yeah.
a following. Which I think like some of those points also in this book, that's kind of what I think what Ostrander, made as part of the plot points.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with the Penguin. Like, he has all the power. He just doesn't. I feel like he lacks the discipline,
Yeah.
right, to be what he really wants. So his laziness causes him to just rely on, okay, fine, then I'll just pay off beautiful women. He actually has a lot of like he perceives himself, and actually he plays the part of the suave individual. He fantasizes that he's not the portly man that he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how he behaves as if he's not. And so that's what's like, even his confidence kind of, like, I wouldn't say it woos, but he does have that swagger. And there are people that, hey, if you throw a couple bucks, and he even says it to that lady. Oh God, what was her name again? So I'm so bad at remembering.
Bethany Wilcox.
Yeah, Bethany Wilcox.
Oh, Bethany.
She's like, what kind of a girl do you think I am? He's like, he's all, you revealed that when you took my first $5. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like the rest is just like negotiation.
Yeah.
Like,
so
he's
got swagger, man.
Slide. I don't know if you'd say that's sly dialogue from Ostrander or what, but it's like, I don't know. It's like that says so much more than what is literally said, you know? And I love it when there's stuff like that. And then you like, that gives you some more insight into like Penguin's, mindset.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a pretty good point. And there's some characters that are in Batman's world that are obviously Joker is like unpredictable, don't need to know every single thing of his life. Mystery is good. Penguin, he's got it, in a sense, he's got it more together than Joker. He just has a few switches, like he can't control himself in a few areas, but otherwise, like, that is like, I don't know, like I love that dialogue because it's like methodical, which I feel like he definitely can be when it comes to negotiating.
Yeah. And I think it's his I think that, again, the desire for power, the desire for a lifestyle, he plays the part, he knows the part, like he again, I love that line is like, they could have been, bunkmates, him and Bruce Wayne, just different paths. And so, I the fake it till you make it is who Oswald Cobblepot is. And, I think that's what makes him successful as a character in this world. And then when he gets too cocky, that's when things kind of like get out of his his space, like even when there's this, sorry, we need to start talking about this book, but like when there's like stories where he's just running the Iceberg Lounge and things get out of hand, he gets there's times where I think people miss the characterization. I actually like when he's a little more in control of things, like, hey, get this guy out of here, but like when he becomes buffoonery, I'm like, oh no, they've actually done a really good job of getting him out of the buffoon area. Like I would say, like as this is the benchmark, he's now a little more in control. He knows how to run things.
He's more of a threat that way.
He's more of a threat that way, but he does have his, like, the things that make him funny are, yes, his looks and how he regards himself, but like I don't think that is I don't think it's indicative of him being like goofy. He looks goofy, so we underestimate him, but like when I don't think he's soft though. And so sometimes when they tell like in some of the more modern stories where he's like he becomes out of control, I think they missed the point. I think sometimes he becomes overly obsessive about things, and that's where he like messes up. And so I think, oh, okay, like that's the good story, but like he's not the goofy buffoon anymore. Anyways,
I think like the overly obsessive, I think that's even a point here that Bruce, I think, says.
Yeah,
like it's referenced in here at one point. I think it's Bruce that says it about that's kind of when he loses it a little bit. Is when he becomes overly obsessive. Not exact quote, but I'm with you on all of that. So we're on the same boat. We're on the same duck.
Yeah.
Much love to the duck. We say all of this, and yet it's like
duck.
we're both massive fans of DeVito's Penguin.
Yeah.
We get in the duck.
Yeah.
But,
and that was interesting. That was actually another interesting thing, like this coming out, sometimes the movies influence things. There's one part in here I want to talk to you about when we get there, but
we can fly all over the place, but
yeah, I mean we can, but like I'm just saying there's never really been much DeVito influence in the books. Sometimes with the long hair, like that's happened a little bit here and there. Sometimes you have the flipper gloves that sometimes they've drawn him with. The last few years it's been really inconsistent.
Zdarsky's first issue on Batman, I think 125.
Yeah.
That Penguin looked freaking DeVito.
Yeah,
but then it's funny because Tom King's current The Penguin doesn't look like DeVito. But yeah, that's supposed to be a carry on from Batman 125 Penguin. So
yeah,
okay,
it's interesting. Yeah, you just kind of he had a messy day. Like again, he has the flipper gloves though. He doesn't have flipper hands, right? Even the animated series started out that way, but he wasn't. But the visual was DeVito-ish, but the character was more in line with this, like entrepreneurial, like criminal. And then the new animated, they made him more debonair.
So you said the animated series.
Yes.
When this started, and I saw the page 9, Penguin says, "I'll go legit," and you see the Gotham Courier says Penguin reforms. Yeah. I instantly wondered, like, was this an influence for the animated series Birds of a Feather episode, which came out the February of 93, so it came out the following year. But that, and then as I kept reading, was like, oh no, maybe in some part this maybe did, I don't know. But also you're talking about like animation then, how quick was a turnaround for an episode? It would have been like maybe 8 months, I don't know. But that episode is different because he genuinely tries to reform.
Yeah.
And here, no, it's part of his play is to put up I'm going legit, I'm reforming, but he knows, no, I'm not. That's part of my play. As you see, like 2 pages after he says that, and he goes and he meets his pal, Randy, who, like you said, you brought up, Penguin gets bullied. Randy was one who got bullied as a kid, or bullied Penguin as a kid. And I mean, that's something that informs this character that we know too, of like this methodical approach to, of like, he does not forget. He's bitter. He doesn't forget. And so you see him as this little kid, which you feel for him in that image of him as a little kid, those first 2 panels, but then he goes home and he sharpens that umbrella and he goes back and slits his face. And it's like, oh, snap. All right. In that flashback, but that's true to the form of the Penguin that we still like kind of see today, is like, you do him wrong, he will not forget.
Yeah.
And I like that about him.
of course, and I think that's also what's motivated him. Like he's going
Mhm.
to continue to. It's funny, like he has this motivation to like come up, but he doesn't put it into his major desire is to have this physical appearance. Like, and maybe if he put the work in, you know,
Yeah.
still be he'd be a
Work.
he'd still be a smaller guy, but you know,
You could lose some of that.
you can lose some of that
funkiness.
penguin. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. But yeah. So anyways, yeah, this book, man, I love the fantasy of himself because it sets the tone, because there's a few times in the book where like when he's at the Wayne Manor and he's seeing Wayne dance with Bethany, and he imagines himself like with Wayne's body. He's kind of staring at him.
Yeah.
There's that kind of happens a few times, like, oh,
Yeah.
what if
Man, put a
So-
monocle on that guy and a top
Yeah.
hat, and
Yeah.
my
There we
lord.
It's very comic booky when it's like where Bruce is like, fine, because the Penguin's like, I want to buy this place, and
Yeah.
he's all,
How
and
much?
he has that line where it's like everything, whatever's on top of it or below it, and you're just kind of like this, because Alfred's like, do you think he knows?
Yeah.
And
That's an interesting piece of dialogue. But
yeah,
since we're there, and then we can hop back and forth and all that stuff. So as you're talking about that, at a big once he gets together. So I mean, the setup here, whoever's listening maybe read it. Him and Randy comes like Penguin knows how to operate the stock market and to get ahead.
Yeah.
And he kind of needs Randy's help. Randy's gonna use Penguin, but then burn him.
Yeah.
And so Penguin, in exchange for that, though, he wants to be part of the elite. He wants to be invited to all the cool places. He wants people to fawn over him. And in like some bits of, comedy, you do see how, and this also made me think of Birds of a Feather, of him kind of being himself in these, in these settings, and the people around him, like he's an embarrassment. He doesn't fit. It's very like, and you see how he's almost on a level of like a 10-year-old kid for the women that are sun tanning. And he's like, here, kid, I'll give you $10. Go put ice cubes on their back. Because then it flips up and they show him and he's whatever. He's a little pervert. There's the DeVito influence.
Hey,
he's a little
French flipper
pervert.
trick.
That's right. But at Wayne Manor, what does Bruce say of like, because Alfred's kind of like, you can't be serious about he's going to take this place. And he's like, it's not like I'm actually selling him the house. I'm letting him stay here as my guest for as long as he wishes, while Bruce Wayne takes an extended tour for his health.
Yeah.
That's supposed to cover up like replace a whole conversation between Penguin and Bruce on what is going on here. I don't really, that's like if I want to pick like a nit in this, it's I feel like maybe they got strapped for pages or something, but like a page of dialogue back and forth between the two would make that smoother, because it's just like, are you threatening me, Mr. Cobblepot? And he's like, no, I hope you live a long and healthy life. Sell me the house. All of a sudden, he's staying here as my guest and I'm going to take a tour for my health. That jumps over something for me.
Yeah. I think I hear you. It is kind of a quick thing of like, I want your house, I'm not selling it, to like, you know what? Fine, stay here. But I think that's just Bruce's way of like, let's get Penguin off the if I have him internally and you're going to be here, Alfred, I can kind of work his angle a little better, a little more closer. I'm going to be downstairs in the Batcave. It's again, the conceit here is we're playing this as early 80s, early 90s comic book like world, and so
logic.
Man, maybe if we had a few extra pages, if we had a few extra pages, it would be, maybe even if Penguin was like, listen, Bruce, I'll give you an extra 20 grand if you get out of here. Like, let me have my way. Maybe see if I like it. And Bruce can be like, I can use this to my advantage. All right, stay here. Like that would have helped a little bit. But I hear you. That's a little bit of a okay. I'll have to swallow that one to make it work. But I actually, I wanted to go back to I actually like and this is the whole point of why I like this book, is the desire to go legit while he's watching the show, and they're talking about Batman being a lightning rod, and it's kind of this this story. This comes up all the time in social media. If Batman, just use his good to help people, right?
Yeah.
But these ladies are kind of
he
debating.
does.
Yeah. Well, she's
Just
saying
saying.
Batman
Anyways.
is a lightning rod and he attracts all this stuff. And so it's good that Batman's there. He takes the brunt of it for us. But the Penguin being inspired to go legitimate by this lady's like dialogue. He's like, I'll go legit. Like this is a great way for me to get out of here and to be more of a business criminal, right? Like how many more people are like that? And it's funny because the line that Tim Drake has is funny now. Boy, I bet Donald Trump is shaking in his boots.
Yes.
And Bruce is all, if he isn't, he should be. Like that's how big of a threat the Penguin is. So if you think about like you have these corporate business guys who are pretty cutthroat, right?
Yeah.
Penguin's right there with them. So like they're just acknowledging how much power and how much ability the Penguin does have if he goes legitimate, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be able to like, if imagine how dangerous he is as a criminal now that he's trying to be a legit criminal, right?
Yeah.
Like these business guys are shady. And so it's like, all right, let's take a peek at him, and it's good that Bruce respects that. Bruce is respecting the power, and he has to teach Tim like, hey man, like this guy's he is a problem. He's one of my most like, I'm trying to remember the line he has, but it's like, he can surprise him, because of his obsessions, so.
Well, and it goes to like what you said, like all of that just backs up to where, he's just more threatening than when he is just a buffoon.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go as if like earlier Penguins prior to this were entertaining and fun. Because of course, like you just said, Burgess Meredith in the 60s show, like he was fun. He wasn't like not a buffoon per se, but it's just easier to label like the version we're talking about where he's all gimmicky. Only of like, there's a penguin statue. I want to go steal it with my tricky umbrella. Sort of stuff. This is just much more threatening because you just put him on that tier of like with those cutthroat business guys. It's like, this guy is like that, and he's extremely smart, and he's manipulative, and he like, okay, that's a great villain, and it again goes beyond a physical matchup because there isn't one at all. But it's like, but that's not what he's just solely relying on. Penguin is working all the other angles because he knows like, if I fight Batman, I'm done. But that only drives him harder to get into this position of power. And that everybody's fawning over of like, everybody idolizes Oswald Cobblepot. He's a dreamboat.
Well, that's what I like. That's the one thing I like. Even like Bethany Wilcox coming back. I love these things from his past. Like he's able to almost like in his brain, be vindicated or like, see, all this paid off. Like, Bethany's coming around now, but like she's using them as well. Like
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it. Like, and he doesn't even care that she's using him. Because it's like, like now, we're back on the same playing field. Back, our first date at the soiree.
I loved that flashback with her though, because that almost informs. Okay, so he's bitter in the first flashback, and that's just one page, and so that ties that back to that of like, this guy bullied me, and you can see that I got back to, okay. I think this second one with the Bethany Wilcox, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages worth of a flashback, but I think it gives you even more of like characteristics of him in his manipulation and his, as he approaches her, and you hear the one guy says, even he's like, only the best looking girl at school. So he's approaching apparently this like best looking girl at school, and he is confident as all hell. And it's just instantly, here's $5 for 5 minutes of your time. Just hear me out. And then she's like, oh, okay. And then it just goes from there. And I think that to me just really felt interesting, especially when, granted, it doesn't go like dark or anything like that, but as she thinks that, okay, sure, like, I'll agree to this. And he's like written documents beforehand. And then as they get there and he's like, now kiss me, it goes a little bit more like, and you can see that she's like, first off, what a disgusting looking kiss face that like, and then you can see that she's like crying, but it's funny because Well, it's funny, but then also sad because she's gone, there's no turning back from the position that she's at and how he just wings this at her, this proposition of like, pay you $20, kiss me now, and I won't tell anybody that I paid you. And then she's like, what? No. And he's like, yeah, like what you said earlier, we settled that when you took the first $5, everything else is just haggling over the right price. Pucker
Yeah.
up, princess, $30. Increases the amount
yeah.
in which then what happens though, like he gets his kiss, but
Yeah.
it's like there's more to it than just like what you see on the page of like the kiss. It's like, no, now think about it, think of Penguin as you've seen him in these comics, TV shows, movies, the Arkham games, of like that carries over in a lot of like that negotiating, like entrapment and everything, like carries over.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, man, that's his strength.
Yeah. And it's
That's why he's a
confidence,
threat.
man.
Yeah.
Like just it's him even floating in the pool is just funny because he's just a big mess.
He
She's
is
there.
Oh my
and
god,
she's there and she's trying and she's looking good. Like early 90s, looking good. She's probably Sharon Stoney, I guess. I don't know. That's what I thought. Like with the haircut and
I
stuff.
get you. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love his line. He says, they say, what would they say? First times live with you forever. They say,
Yeah.
like, and just his approach is so slimy, dude. And like he's just sitting there, and he knows she's playing into it. And then they negotiate again. He's all, I'll give you $250. She's like basically saying, I'll be your date, because she's trying to infiltrate. He knows her deal, right? Oh, I have a bunch of dead husbands.
So young Justin reading
Yes.
this for the first time maybe reads the line a little more innocent than adult Justin. Younger
Yeah.
Ryan would have more than now, but it's just because we've experienced more. But when she says I'll cost you $1,000, and he says
Mhm.
250, you're no longer fresh.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that can almost feel really greasy and slimy.
Oh, that's
Like,
super. Yeah. I
man.
probably didn't get most of this back then, bro. I was just like, huh? I had no idea. Like 13.
But it's whatever.
Yeah.
This, so Holmes secretly, he's made this deal with Oz, but you see like after Oz leaves his room there at the beginning, that basically his Holmes's Randy, I should say, Randy's right hand man, Kale, is there, and he's just waiting in the wings to get the green light when Holmes has him. When Holmes has Penguin, then he's like, okay, go take care of him. And so that's basically like the third act, where things all come together under the same roof of Bethany, Penguin, Kale / Randy, and then of course Batman in the cave, keeping an eye on all of it. I really liked how this unfolded, because this is we only get like one panel of real Gordon, not in the Scotland Gordon that's in Oz's dreams. But an interesting sort of twist on it is Penguin actually beat them to the punch, went and confessed to Gordon all the information, and for a reduced sentence, and how he's working with Randy and everything, because and I don't remember the quote, but it made me think a little bit of like a close to the Riddler, in the sense of Penguin, when he's got nobody to basically show off in front of, then all of it's pointless.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty true to Penguin as well.
Yeah. He loves that spotlight, and
the showboat.
So now it's like, okay, fine. If this isn't going to get me the accolades, I'll take the, I don't know. I was trying to think of a sports term, but I don't know the good sports. I'll walk. I'm not getting a home run, so I'll walk the bases. How about that?
There you go.
Not as great, but hey, I'm going to get the reduced sentence and I'll get out. And then that's why I feel like after this is like when the Iceberg Lounge and all those things happen, right? He goes, I'll just be a legitimate wink, wink, nudge, nudge businessman.
This stuff's all happening off screen. You can fill it in yourself, but that basically the fallout of all this is going to be spread out through the news in Gotham, and it's like Penguin is a part of the capture. Like Penguin, he blah blah blah. Like I just feel like he's going to get the exposure that he wants. That's going to make him seem like he's so smart, because he knew this was going on, and he negotiated with police, and and he helped trap this guy that was skewing the stock market and all that. So in the end, it's one of those things of kind of like, he won.
Yeah,
You know?
he's triumphant.
The
Penguin's triumphant.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Ostrander, you smart son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
I like this battle at the end too, because
Mhm.
I mean it starts off Kale and Penguin taking on each other. Penguin's outfit here,
Which, like, come on, Penguin's not very formidable, but he pulls it off.
his umbrella shoots like a ton of daggers, which is pretty cool.
Which was that was actually pretty cool, because usually it's the nose of it. I don't know what you call the top of the umbrella, which is shooting fire or bullets or whatever. Like, it was cool to kind of see what do you call those, the spines of the umbrella.
Sure,
Let's go.
Yeah,
that was actually really cool. That spike shot out of there. That was like, that's a pretty rigged umbrella. Like, that one's pretty awesome.
This outfit though, this was the most it stood out to me, but the Kenner Penguin figures, just a little coloring, just a little different, but otherwise, like the one that was released in time for Batman Returns, I had that Penguin, which I know ended up being a repaint. But that's just what I thought of right away and seeing these more so than any others. Did you get the feel of Breyfogle in a lot of this? I knew it wasn't. But there are parts that really reminded me of Breyfogle.
I think what Breyfogle and Staten have is a similar, like, they have a good mix of cartoony style. There's times where things are a little cartoony, not so, not much like, there's exaggerations in their artwork,
Yeah.
And Staten's done some stuff that's a little more like his early Green Lantern work, and he did Huntress stuff where she was Helena Wayne, and so that stuff's a little less cartoony. I think as he got older, he went a little more silly with some stuff, his Guy Gardner work and things. Early Green Lantern stuff, a little more, you would go, is that the same artist? But he's kind of in his cartoony form here.
This Kale guy has a terrible perm.
Yes,
it's bad stuff. Didn't like
it.
him.
Reminds me of the guy in the Fugitive that was fighting Harrison Ford, the one-armed man.
Okay,
that hair. It just that's who I see with this character. That's all. I don't know if it was an influence or anything, because it's around the same time. Even the coat, even him in the coat. I'm like, is that the freaking one-armed man?
Fantastic. Nice.
Yeah, look it up. You'll laugh.
Yeah, I just did. It looks, I like it. Bravo.
Yeah.
But then he comes face to face and he meets Batman there in Wayne Manor, and I love this line that Batman spits of when Kale says, better and better, killing that waddling little lunatic is something of an embarrassment. Killing you will be an accomplishment. And then Batman says, do it first, then brag about it.
Dude, that was such a cool Batman line, dude. Like,
awesome.
I'm glad you brought that. That quote is awesome, dude. Like, that's such a badass thing to say, dude. Like,
do it first, then brag about it.
Do it first, then brag about it.
And I could hear like that. I could totally hear Conroy saying that. And some of the parts, I mean, where does Batman say? I swear that he says a line of dialogue in a fighting, and like, is this smack good, smack enough? And sometimes it's like, I mean, that's okay, but short and sweet like that is like,
well, so some of that, it's because when I first read this, there was no Batman animated series. All I had was like Weston Keaton. I don't even think I was reading in those words, but that line though, it does to me, it sounds like Bale to me. It sounds like a Bale line.
Like, how about these?
Yes.
I felt like he had some kind of goofy dialogue in his battle scene.
How about this?
And so,
is this good enough?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Done. But no, that was a standout for me for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I did not expect, it looked like Penguin got shot from the back and the bullet went out the front in his chest.
Yeah.
How many people live from that?
Yeah. Okay. So okay. That was
he's a penguin. It's a comic book.
There was going to be my issue right there.
There's yours. Okay.
He gets shot. Looks like through almost through right by the shoulder. Maybe it looks like in the first panel, and then as every other panel is like, oh, it looks like right, like
gradually
above
moves
the
down.
ribs, and then it's like, wait, that's in his abdomen. So where the heck where did this guy get shot? And then all of a sudden there's no blood in one panel. Like, oh, now he's no longer like the part where he uses his gas, because he does do that, like, hey, can you count type of thing? Like he's been counting bullets and then pulls out his penguin gas. There's no blood at all on him, unless you have blood in yours. Like in the book, no blood, not even in his mouth. And then the next panel,
no blood. And then was it Oswald in that panel? You can see that Kale's face down in blood, his hands in blood.
Yeah.
So yeah, it disappears, then it comes back. You turn the page, and then blood has returned. Except for the very last panel, but also, like, I don't know, maybe the art style and the coloring and stuff in some of those panels, like I don't know, but yeah, some of that missed. But that the one that stood out to me was definitely the position of him getting shot, because I'm like, that's damn close to the heart. How do you?
Yeah, it is what it is.
How does that continue? But whatever.
Maybe
he's triumphant.
Yeah, he is triumphant, dude. even where medical issues arise, the Penguin will be triumphant.
That's right. I like this last, this last scene with Bethany and Penguin, and how she says, let's see, I have far more cause to hate you than you to hate him. What would you do in my case, Oswald? And he says, I'd shoot, my dear. I'd shoot. You totally believe it. That's definitely what he would do. And she goes, then I'd be just like you, wouldn't I, Oswald? Whatever I am, I haven't sunk to that. And she's done. And then she kind of does a, like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you kind of moment. And just walking off. It's like, your call, Batman. And let's go. And I'm like, that's kind of a badass way for her to exit the story too. She did what she wanted. She's like, nope. And she's out. You never hear from her again. And I'm like, that's cool. That was good. I like it.
Yeah. That was
good stuff. Good things.
Yeah. The one thing that I wanted to bring up at the end here, like, Bruce and Tim, there's some very 60s stuff here. Like they're just hanging out in the study, But Alfred at the end, where
Bruce in a robe.
Right. Like, I'm just gonna put my ascot on and my robe, and just Alfred's bringing us tea. So Alfred's talking about the bullet holes have been replastered and painted over. For the most part, I am still engaged in mortal combat with the blood stains and the black goo. What's the black goo? I just kept thinking about
I was wondering that too.
Like, all the goo. I'm like, what black goo? There's no black goo in this book. And are they saying he's got that black goo spittle? I don't know, man. I just thought that was funny. Like, the black goo. What black goo are you talking about? Just him being gross? I don't know.
So my mind first went to kind of flipped. And when it said black goo, I started, like, my mind went down like Returns. He spit up black goo.
Yeah.
But wait. And then I started thinking of the timeline of everything. Like, no, this came out when Returns came out.
Yeah.
Why would Ostrander have gotten, the script on Returns and known Penguin was going to spit black goo?
He could have.
I'm like, that doesn't really match up. And then my mind went to, wait, where the hell was the black goo? At least we saw blood in some panels. We didn't see any black goo anywhere. Oh man, what's the black goo?
Yeah,
those crazy parties that Oz had going on. It's like,
like, almost like that scene where he's getting all debauchery. Everyone's telling remember he only tells the punchlines because those are the funny parts.
Those are the funny parts. It's like, oh my god, that is such a. Does that not feel like a suit thing to do? Of like, like somebody that would come onto a movie set, a suit, doesn't know anything, and it's like, hey, that's not funny. It would be funny.
Yeah.
Put that in there. It's like, God, no. And so he's totally acting in those as a, as a suit, basically.
That guy, the guy who thinks
buffoon there. Yeah. I'll say a buffoon there. Yeah. That's totally it.
That's fair.
Let's see. What's that? Let's see. Tim's last thing. The Penguin's back where he belongs. So I guess everything's okay. And Bruce, is there anywhere that he really belongs? And Penguin's back to fantasizing, bringing it full circle to the strapping young Scotland chap.
Yeah.
I said, curse you, Penguin. I swears. One day I'll see you behind bars. I will. I don't know what kind of accent I'm doing.
Yeah.
In your dream. But something that I totally appreciate and love with this then is that it's such a good, like, it's a standalone then.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do research before or after this. It's like, you pick this up, read it, and like, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. And I miss days of stuff like this, that is more accessible for more people, and tells a full story. And then that's it. That was fun. Good times. Let's talk about it on a podcast, you know?
Yeah. It's only really informed by your knowledge of these characters. Like if all you know is the Penguin has umbrellas and doesn't really particularly care for Batman, then you're good to go.
Yeah. And I mean,
but it does paint a picture of his story too, a little bit of his origin. You know, there's a little bit of that in there.
A little bit. And then look at that. And so somebody who has very limited knowledge on the character, and then you and I who are very much informed of the character, it's like we could get equal enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
Because you can take it like on face level of just this comic based on this comic, like, oh, that was fun, and he blah blah blah. And then you and I are like, but man, look at it, it's kind of like it relates to this and it relates to this, and then these days it's like go back to this. And so that's a good comic book.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Justin and I really like Penguin Triumphant.
I thought for me, it was Triumphant.
Triumphant. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Is there any other points you want to touch on before I ask you a couple questions?
No, I think it was nice revisiting this book. I'm going to tell you, it's a fun comic book. It'll be, and it's not long either. It'll probably take you about 35 minutes to go through it. You know, make yourself some tea, maybe. Read it by the pool. I would say read this by the pool.
What do you call those?
Maybe wait. Wait till spring. Don't do it now. Cold.
What do you call I mean, is it just like I don't smoke. Whatever you put the cigarette in that looks like a pipe. Is it just a cigarette pipe? Cigarette holder?
I would tell you.
Technically what those are called.
It's on the tip of my tongue, dude.
Get one of those, get some tea, put on your top hat and monocle, and read Penguin Triumphant.
There you go.
Really embrace how you and I said, like, hey, when you read the Red Rain trilogy, you know, just light candles, be in the darkness, just read it and embrace.
Put on the Bram Stoker's Dracula, like soundtrack.
Oh, my goodness, hell yeah! All right, Justin, let me ask you some questions.
Yes, you've got a question?
What was your favorite part of Penguin Triumphant?
I don't have a singular favorite part. I just like I like the Penguin negotiating with people. Just again, we talked a lot about this, how much confidence he has based on, like, you know, his criminal mind, man. And like that gives him all the confidence in the world. And it proves his point. It proves his point that like everything that he desires, he gets by being nefarious, right? He wants beautiful women. Fine, I'll pay them off. And they don't even fight. He proves his like delusions to be true. Beautiful women are at a cost. Not everybody, but like the ones that he wants, they come to him. And it was fun just to see all that play through. And the people who think they were going to get the Penguin didn't. because he proves Batman right. The Penguin's smart. You know, don't be fooled by his exterior, right?
He knows how to waddle.
Yeah, he can waddle through this stuff. So it was just fun seeing. The story was pretty, I mean, minus that one part where Bruce Wayne moves out. Like the conceit is, okay, Batman's playing the long game here. It's a pretty tight story of how the Penguin operates. And so, yeah.
Cool. My favorite part, maybe surprisingly, I don't know, is the Bethany flashback.
Oh yeah, that was a good. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying though, is it shows how he manipulates. Yeah,
and I think that's why, because like I said, that it's done over 4 pages, but it informs so much of the character of Penguin, and not just like, hey, if I pay enough money, I can talk you into it. It's like, no, there's a little bit more to it. It gives you a little bit more of a greasy feeling from him and how he is. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the Penguin. Like he can be kind of a gross individual physically and metaphorically, I guess. I don't know. Blech. How about your favorite panel?
You know what? That was one thing. I don't really have a favorite panel in here, man.
You can't pick a favorite on this.
Yeah, I mean, the one that when I think of the story, I always think of the kids throwing ice cubes on those girls' backs, because it's such a funny moment. And I don't want it to be pervy. It's just kind of funny, like that happens. It is, but I don't have a favorite panel. Okay. And that's not to say the art is bad, but the function of the art in this book is to tell the story. But there's no real like splash pages and like there's not like a definitive Batman shot or there's not even
Yeah.
a definitive Penguin shot here. Like, you know, it's good storytelling, but there is the miss of a comic book. You need a good splash page, and I really don't think there is. The page where Batman does say do it first, then brag about it. I mean, that's a good Batman image, but
Yeah.
it's not my favorite in the book. There's just the whole book works as its own. I would say the cover is my favorite part. It's a good iconic image of the Penguin. Like, you
Mhm.
know, if you were like Pete and loved the Penguin,
Yeah.
if you got that as a, you know, a framed image without like the cover dress, you'd be loving life. So sorry to
Mine.
disappoint.
No. No, I get it. I think that's pretty valid. If there isn't a splash page, there isn't like a panel of Penguin full gear, head to toe, and you know, like a I'm the Penguin. There isn't a head to toe I'm Batman moment or anything like that either. So I get it. However, I definitely have one, and it comes at the bottom of page 9 of the Batcave.
Okay,
Early 90s Batcave. Oh my gosh, give it to me all
gotcha.
day, every day. Because number one, I always think of Breyfogle's Batcaves, but also, I mean, it
Yeah,
it goes to late 80s and the Aparo Batcave as well, you know,
yeah,
like that time, that area, time period of these Batman comics and him in the Batcave. I freaking love it. I think it's
yeah,
great. I think that probably ties into like that was my these were some of my first comics like that time period that I ever saw. So
yeah,
that was my exposure to the Batcave and stuff. And of course the T-Rex and the Penny.
yeah,
Giant chess pieces because why not? But then you
yeah,
see like
yeah.
the cave is really, you know, like a cave with the droopy parts and stuff like that. And I'm just I get
Stalactites.
yeah, and I love it and I love the coloring and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Batcave.
Interesting enough, I would say this: like in most of those, like the Breyfogle Aparo books, like the Batcave floor is always like a gold or a yellow, and here it's like a steel blue. I don't know
Yeah.
if you noticed that. Like I've always noticed, like
I didn't think about it,
why
but
is the
yeah,
floor like a copper or I don't know what color what color it is, but
interesting.
I'm like here it's you know a
It's
shiny steel blue.
it's see-through glass because it's on a platform. So
There you
you
go.
like it's Bruce's test for anybody. Hey, you want to be Robin? You got to walk on this and not shit
Yeah,
yourself. Like you're seeing down.
that's
Uh,
a terrifying spot to be in.
yeah. So seeing as this is now this year will be 32 years old, but
Wow.
never short of stories. Would you like to see this adapted in animation?
It'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be a fun story to see in an animated form. I think with the art style, it makes it real. It's almost like this is a storyboard to what an animated
Hmm.
project could look like. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be fun. I'd love to see it. I would love to see it on the Penguin
The
TV
big
show.
screen.
Maybe they have a kind of a maybe this story influences Penguin doing some legitimate moves. Who knows?
He's a proprietor.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm with you.
I'm
I know
Oz.
there's how you doing? Um, though there like little moments of this made me think of Birds of a Feather. I think that this is so loose in how it can be updated. You
Yeah.
know, if it needs to be really, it's not like there's anything in here that is completely like, oh, that's way too old now. Like I don't think they'd mention Donald Trump. Um,
Oh, maybe they still would.
but
That's the
maybe they
thing. Like,
would.
because they said he'd be afraid of him. Because especially now, like you know, like if you want to
Yeah,
like
given his
put
position
them
and all that stuff, sure,
put
I
put
guess.
them in like a criminal you know like
Yeah.
slant. Sure.
Um, but like I don't know, you could easily this is almost a little timeless, you know, the way
Yeah.
that this story is. So yeah, why not? There's easily malleable. I think that it could fit to a lighter tone, a mature tone, a BTAS tone.
Yeah.
So I'm all for like yeah, I don't think I think it would be an episode of a cartoon series, not a 75-minute movie. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Because
Yeah. I
I
think it's
think,
an animated. I
yeah, an
think it's an
animated
animated
episode.
episode. Yeah.
Because if you have a movie, it's like, okay, well, we have to have like minimum 3 Batman action scenes. And there's only one Batman action scene, and it's him fighting old Kale at the end, dropping a badass line. You know, it's like 2 pages. So I think it's definitely much more an episode of a show. So,
Nice.
um, I mean, you kind of gave final thoughts. Do you have final thoughts on this book, or
Mm,
you already
I
spoke
think
your piece?
Yeah, I think it's a actual like you said, it's been collected in that Batman Arkham Penguin book. I think it would be an essential Penguin story. I think it's a good one. You know, I would throw it in there. So
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
really glad you chose this one. And I did have to
Yeah.
ask you of like just to double check because it was hazy to me of like Batman plays an important role in it, right? And you're like, yeah, he does. I'm like, okay, then we're good. You know, Batman book club rules.
Ryan's got a litmus test, man. If
I do.
Batman isn't integral,
gotta
man,
be crucial.
not
Gotta
reading
be
this.
crucial to the story. But yeah, I think
Batman and friends.
yes. But yeah, I think this is a fun one. It's more fun than the One Bad Day and Pain and Prejudice stories.
Yeah.
But like I said at the top of the show, like just like a half notch below those two, which is pretty damn good considering the character's been around all these years.
Yeah.
It's a fun story. So
Yeah,
people
but that's the
track it
thing.
down.
Pride and Prejudice, or Pain and Prejudice.
Pain and Prejudice, yeah.
That's not a fun story, but it's a good story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like what's
And
your mood?
Yeah, and I think I prefer that one. Like maybe hey, that's another one. But like
Yeah.
This one just is fun.
Yep.
So don't read it on a day where
If-
you're like,
if-
having fun. Again, read it by the pool, man. Read it by the pool.
Read it by the pool in a floaty in your
and a
shorts,
floaty in your shorts, man. You'll have a good day.
flirting with Sharon Stone.
Grab some ice cubes. It'll be good.
Yeah, track it down. If you haven't read it and you listen to us just talk about it, you can still read it and it will be fun. I promise you.
Yeah.
We didn't ruin it by any
Yeah.
means. But Justin Kowalski, always a pleasure having you on this show.
Yes.
Always talking to you, everything.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and plug away anything and everything?
Yeah, plug in. Just you can find me on Twitter/X, Justin M. Kowalski.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I got a new episode of Batman on film, Batman '89, chapter by chapter. I think it's
Chapter by
episode
chapter.
10. Me and Pete go over minutes about 50 to 54 of Batman '89. We're getting through it. We're back at it. Took a little bit of a break. We needed some of the stink of that Flash film to wear off the prestige name of Michael Keaton. We needed to take it back to the greatness that it is. And so since I hung some Michael Keaton ornaments on my tree, I'm feeling now's the time to just reclaim that glory. And so getting back at it. So you'll find me there. And then I don't know, maybe I'll pop up back on the BBC again. And I do have a show that I'll be starting for BOF probably a little bit later in the year.
My man.
Yeah, my man. All right. Once Batman '89 finishes, then I can start the new show
Awesome.
to be
To be continued.
determined. TBA, to be announced.
To be announced.
determined.
Taba.
Yeah.
There we go.
Taba. But
You will be
it'll be fun.
We'll say as you will be invited back on this show multiple times this year.
Yes.
So I mean, let's just be frank. It's the
There's no more
Boys.
Batman stories though. There's no more Batman stories.
Yeah,
They're all over.
We've talked about all of them. There aren't any left.
Yeah. We'll read them
Scraping
backwards.
the bottom of the barrel. For Penguin Triumphant.
No way,
There you go.
dude.
Awesome. If you want to follow the Batman Book Club, X, Twitter, or Instagram at the Batman BC for latest episode drops, upcoming episodes, sometimes some giveaways. Make sure to subscribe to the Batman Book Club YouTube channel. Pete and I are
Yep.
getting back on it.
Get it.
Tackling No Man's Land Omnibus. It's happening. So go ahead and
Oh my
subscribe.
gosh.
It's going to be there only. If you want to
Mhm.
support the show, there's a variety of ways you can do that. Like I said at the top, patreon.com/thebatmanbc, tpublic.com, type in TBBC for the Batman Book Club, where you can get some cool stuff with that killer created by Justin Kowalski logo of the Batman
he's a
Book
nice
Club
guy.
all
Nice guy.
over all these things. He's a good dude. He's a rad friend. There we go. RP.
Oh, so
But if you don't want to spend any money at all, that's 100% A-okay. The easiest, quickest, and by far most impactful thing you can do. And it takes you no time at all. Is rate and review the show. Wherever you listen
right.
to it, whatever podcast provider, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google Play, a lot more that I don't even name. Go to the rate and review page, rate and review the show. I promise you, it's so quick. But the more reviews the show gets, the more it helps spread the word. And as you, as me, as Justin Kowalski all know, that word is panic.
Panic.
So for this guy, JK, Justin Kowalski, I am Ryan Lauer. And until next time, read my Batman comics.
Wah.